right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the thing everyone in tech is obsessed with right now, the AI boom. Is this thing for real? Is it going to change everything? Or is it just, a bubble that's about to burst? Let's get into it.
You've seen this play out online, right? Your feed is probably a battlefield. You've got one camp saying, this is the revolution. Everything is about to change. And then the other camp is just screaming, bubble, it's all hype. And you know what? The crazy part is, they might both be right. And that's what makes this so fascinating. Okay, so how do we cut through all that noise? Well, we're going to lean on a really, really deep analysis from a tech expert named Benedict Evans. This guy's been around the block, and he's got the data and the historical perspective we need to actually make sense of this. So let's kick things off with a big idea he talks about. All right, first up, the platform shift. This is a super important idea to get your head around because it frames this whole conversation. We're not just talking about some cool new app here. No, this is about a potential earthquake, a fundamental reshaping of the entire tech world. So, if you look back at tech history, you see this pattern. Every decade or so, bam, a new platform shift hits. Think about it. We went from mainframes to PCs, then the web came along, and then smartphones totally took over. Every single time, all the investment, all the smartest people, all the exciting new ideas, they just rush towards that new thing. And the big bet right now is that generative AI, well, that's the next one on the timeline. And here's the thing you have to understand about these shifts. The stakes are ridiculously high. Just because you were the king of the last era doesn't mean a thing. In fact, it's often the opposite. These are the moments where titans stumble and new empires are built, seemingly overnight. I mean, just look at Microsoft. They're the poster child for this. Back in the PC days, they were unstoppable. They owned something like 95% of the market. It was their world. Then the smartphone shift happened. And what happened to that dominance? It just cratered. Apple and Google swooped in and took over mobile. Microsoft, with all its money and power, just completely missed the boat. You better believe that story is what keeps the CEOs of today's biggest tech companies staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Right. So that deep-seated fear, that terror of becoming the next Microsoft is what's fueling this absolute frenzy we're seeing. And it has created this, well, it's a huge kind of weird money machine that's spinning up inside the tech industry. This quote from Sundar Pichai at Google, man, it just says everything. Think about it from his perspective. If you're Google, AI is an existential threat to your search business. So the risk of not spending enough money is way, way bigger than the risk of spending too much. Yeah, wasting a few $1 billion would sting. But becoming irrelevant? That's game over. And that fear isn't just talk. It translates into numbers that are, honestly, hard to even wrap your head around. We're talking about an estimated $400 billion in spending on AI next year. And that's from just 4 companies: Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon. The scale is just staggering. So how do you even visualize that kind of money? Well, think about this. That spending is literally changing the physical world around us. In the United States right now, we're building more data centers than we are office buildings. Think about that for a second. We are literally pouring more concrete and steel into housing AI servers than we are into housing people for work. That's the foundation of this new era being built. Okay, but here's where the story takes a weird turn. A huge chunk of this money, it's not really going anywhere. It's just spinning around in a big circle. There's a term for it: circular revenue, and it basically means the tech giants are paying startups who then pay them right back. It's a pretty wild loop. Check it out. Step 1, a company like Meta or Google gives NVIDIA billions of dollars for those super important AI chips. Step 2, NVIDIA is now swimming in cash, so they turn around and invest in all these hot AI startups, like OpenAI. And then step 3, what does OpenAI do with that investment money? You guessed it, they use it to buy more chips from NVIDIA. See? It's his perfect, self-contained financial ecosystem. So, that's the view from inside Silicon Valley. You've got this insane amount of money just sloshing around in a closed loop. But what about the rest of us? What happens when you step outside that bubble and ask, okay, are normal people actually using this stuff? And when you look at the data, you find this really interesting disconnect. I mean, sure, a ton of people have played around with something like ChatGPT. Monthly use, pretty high. People are curious. But daily use, woof, it drops off a cliff. We're talking less than 10%. So for most folks, it seems like AI is still a novelty, a cool thing to try out, not something that's baked into their daily lives. So that's the billion-dollar question, right? Why aren't people sticking around? What's the hurdle between, oh, that's neat, and I can't live without this? Well, one really strong theory is that the underlying technology is basically becoming a commodity. So, what's a commodity? Simple. It's like buying potatoes at the grocery store. You don't really care about the brand of potato, right? A potato is a potato. And when a product gets to that point, the competition isn't about who has the best potato anymore. It's about other stuff, like who's cheaper, who's more convenient, or which brand you just happen to know and trust. And that potato logic, it's pretty much what's happening with these AI models. The best ones from Google, Anthropic, OpenAI, they're all amazing. And honestly, the title of best model changes from week to week. The differences are tiny. So when the actual tech is that close, the game changes. It stops being about who has the smartest AI and starts being about who can get their AI into the most hands. It becomes a battle of distribution. And if you want proof, look no further than this chart. You've got ChatGPT and Claude. Both are incredible models. You could argue all day about which one is technically better this week, but just look at the usage. It's not even close. ChatGPT has a massive chunk of the population using it every week. Claude is tiny in comparison. That's not a tech gap, folks. That is a brand and distribution gap, plain and simple. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. On one side, you have this wild internal investment bubble. On the other, you have a more, let's say, sober picture of how regular people are actually using this stuff. So let's get back to our big question at the start.
So, is it a bubble? The answer is yes and no. It's complicated. The platform shift, the underlying technological earthquake, that part is 100% real. It is going to change things. But that very real, very important shift is currently wrapped up inside a classic, old-fashioned, hype-driven investment bubble.
And don't get it twisted. When these fundamental shifts happen, the consequences are very, very real. I mean, think about elevator attendants. That used to be a common job. Then a new technology, the automatic elevator, came along and poof, the entire job category was just gone. It's a great reminder that even if there's a bubble, the change underneath it all can be permanent and profound. So with all that in mind, what's a practical way to think about AI right now? How can we use it today? Well, Benedict Evans has this fantastic mental model for it. He says you should think of AI as having access to infinite interns. Now, these interns, they're super smart, they're lightning fast, but they're not perfect. They make mistakes, let's say about 5% of the time. So the question we should be asking isn't, is it a bubble? That's the wrong question. The real question, the one I want to leave you with, is this. If you had an army of infinite, nearly free interns who are right 95% of the time, what would you build? What problems would you solve? What does that unlock? That's the real puzzle to figure out. Thanks for digging into this with me.